I have exciting news for you. From the week of December 5th until the 15th, you will have the opportunity to win an all access lifetime membership pass to the personal development school to give yourself the gift of healthy relationships this holiday season. We will be selecting 5 lucky winners to receive special prizes. And all you need to do is to be subscribed to our YouTube channel, like this video, and then click the link in the description and register your email in order to be entered to win. There are also bonus points for those who comment below on how a lifetime membership to our school could really benefit them or impact their lives. So make sure you check your email on December 16th to see if you win. Again, we'll have 5 winners that get all sorts of different access and prizes to PDS. And if you don't hear back from us, please don't worry. Everyone who enters will also still receive a small gift from myself and the personal development school as a thank you for being a valuable member of the PDS community. And all of the details are listed in the description of this video below. Best of luck. Okay, so let's take some time in this video and let's clear up some of the big similarities, but also even bigger differences between narcissistic personality disorder and dismissive avoidant attachment style. So what I'm going to take you through in this video is some of the differences because I see countless individuals who sort of compare the two and who sort of do a deep dive into some of these different dynamics. And I really want to clear up a few really crucial things that you'll want to understand. And I want to start by just going through some of the traits of narcissists versus dismissive avoidance. And then we'll talk about how attachment styles and narcissism may or may not overlap. So first and foremost, one of the big things you'll see is a narcissist, and these are some of the actually, I'll start with similarities. Some of the big similarities you may see at times, and I think that they're sort of misconstrued more than anything else. But it's that DAs can present a little bit as self-centered and self-oriented. And this is because they're sort of out for themselves. When experiencing a lot of neglect in childhood, you have to learn to fend for yourself at a young age. So their perspective and their ability to think of others and more than themselves, or the ability to think that relationships are this giving and receiving, this exchange, can be a little bit more limited than other attachment styles. And so I see that that's where sometimes people can get these different things mixed up. And at times, DAs can be a little bit more of takers on the attachment style spectrum than they will be givers. And again, usually it's due to lots of neglect growing up. And then also due to that neglect, feeling like, okay, I'm just kind of in this survival mode. And whenever we are in survival mode, we can be a little more selfish. We can take a little bit more because we're living from a place of lack. And the very last place that I'll often see people get sort of these dynamics misconstrued is that DAs can sometimes express a lack of empathy. Although when I've sat with many, many DAs over the years, generally they do empathize with others, but they don't express it because they see that expression of the empathy as being something that is going to make them weak or too sensitive. And I've even had conversations with DAs at times who say things along the lines of, well, if I was feeling sad and vulnerable, like I wouldn't want somebody to keep talking to me about it. I would want them to give me space. So that's what I do for others. So we may see these places where there can be a little bit of selfishness or a tendency more to be takers than givers. And again, this is before DAs are like really doing work on themselves, right? We may see a lack of externally expressed empathy. And I think from those 3 spaces, this is where we see these mix-ups where people go, oh my goodness, and this person must be narcissistic or a narcissist. But now I want to talk to you about some of the actual differences. The very first thing that's a massive difference is that narcissists are extremely grandiose. They need a lot of attention. They're very consumed with like their self-identity, and really feeling like they are special and important and more amazing than other people. And they want everybody to know and they want to show off all the time. And we definitely do not see that behavior from dismissive avoidance. Dismissive avoidance may appreciate small compliments and things that help them feel acknowledged, but they're definitely not grandiose and approval seeking all the time. You'll see narcissists constantly out for that approval, that narcissistic supply, trying to get attention, get approval from others. Whereas dismissive avoidance, they tend to really, even if somebody gives them a whole bunch of grandiose compliments, they tend to shy away and not trust it. Or they tend to just feel like it's excessive and it's too vulnerable and they want that space away from it. So this is a huge difference And generally, when meeting a narcissist, that will be one of the first things that you tend to notice. Obviously, as well, this is more of our overt narcissist or grandiose narcissist. But, this tends to really um, fall into play or be in play when it comes to even covert narcissists. They tend to really try to do what they can to get narcissistic supply, although it's in more sneaky ways. Whereas DAs, if you give them too much approval and attention, and too many large compliments, they'll actually retract. Like they'll retreat and they will tend to deactivate and feel overwhelmed. So that's one of the biggest, just most obvious signs of differences. Number two, is that narcissists tend to have a lot of their focus constantly organized around power, status, success, being more successful than others, being more attractive than others, being more powerful than others, having power over others. A lot of their thoughts and emotional energy literally go into that bucket. And again, dismissive avoidance, I feel like, are kind of like, hey, just can you leave me alone, please? They're just really independent and they really don't spend as much time thinking about like, comparisons to other people, especially in these really excessive ways. And they definitely don't spend a lot of their lives deriving their sense of self from comparisons to others, the way that the narcissist does. So that's massive difference, number two. Number three, the narcissist tends to really put a lot of emphasis on focusing on associating with high power or high status people. Sometimes they'll even avoid hanging out with what the narcissist would consider as normal people. And they tend to be really big, like social climbers. They want to, find other high status people. They may name drop a lot. They may talk about these people they've been around all the time. And there's this really big need for that like superiority and that need to prove that they have all this status and power and, all these people they've been connected to. And there's a lot of focus there. And again, dismissive avoidance probably couldn't care less. Like the vast majority of dismissive avoidance, if you start telling them about all these like if you had a narcissist and a DA having a conversation together, you can pretty much guarantee the dismissive avoidant would just like exit the conversation in the first few minutes because they would be like, I don't care about this stuff. I'm not really interested in sticking around to hear about these name drops of people and all these different things and all the grandiosity. Like they won't tend to be like, okay, this is a place I can relate to you because it's not really something that generally takes up the DA's mental, emotional real estate. So I have three other really major points to get to in this video, but I just want to let you know as well, if you are somebody who's struggled with narcissistic abuse, have been in a past relationship or history of relationships, whether in family, friendships, romantic partnerships, working relationships with a narcissist, and you want to do a deep dive into healing, we have a massive overcoming narcissistic abuse course inside PDS, and it goes really in depth for how we can heal the key points, how to manage the complex grief that arises. And you can check it out for free for 7 days using the link in the description box below. And it can really help you get a good kickstart on doing that deep inner work and healing. So I hope you enjoy. Another huge thing is we see the narcissist constantly needing that excessive admiration. It kind of goes hand in hand with narcissistic supply, but I would really put narcissistic supply more in the categorization of attention and approval versus admiration. Like the narcissist wants people to like look up to them, admire them, think that they're amazing, think that they're special. And they really spend a lot of time wondering about what other people think of them and really trying to create these like impressive types of relationships. And when they first meet other people, narcissists will also tend to love bomb in excess, right? Like they tend to really like do what they can to win you over, think that they're amazing, get you to think that they're amazing, and do all these things to just, reel you in a lot. Whereas the DAs can definitely, if they're interested in dating somebody, be like a little more charismatic than they might be when they really have that attachment and bond and start to kind of get afraid and withdraw if they're not working on themselves. But I would definitely say there's a massive difference between like the intense love bombing and also narcissists in the early stage of dating. So I was trying to go off of like the DSM, but I'm kind of veering here from the similarities and differences. But just another huge thing you'll see with narcissists is when it comes to dating, they'll seriously love bomb in the early stages. DAs may be a little more charismatic and a little more open before those fears of attachment really kick in, but they're not really love bombing people. Like They, may text a little more than they would early on if they're interested. They may initiate things a little bit more, but love bombing is like, I want you to be thinking of me at all times, all day, every day. And I'm going to do these grandiose or over the top sort of gestures or say these over the top things to try to win you over and to try to build that bond so quickly. And the love bombing to any other attachment style will just feel excessive. Whereas nobody's really going to get this excessive feeling from a dismissive avoidant in the dating stage of relationships. So again, the DA may like love bomb according to what they would later. Like if you're comparing like DA once they have their fears online versus how they were at the beginning, there might be some changes, but it really doesn't fit into like actual love bombing territory. And then last but not least, we'll generally see that dismissive avoidants are not very arrogant creatures. They may be standoffish, they may be aloof at times, but they're not arrogant. They're not like actively thinking or talking or trying to help everybody reach the conclusion that they are better than everybody else. They're not condescending to others. They can be short, right? They can be standoffish. They can be retracted and slow to warm up. But if you're paying close attention, that's a very different type of personality than somebody who's very arrogant and trying to show off and put other people down and be condescending. And again, that's what we'll see coming more out of the narcissistic individuals. And going back to some of the similarities we discussed, to be very, very clear, narcissists tend to like really want to exploit or take advantage of other people and tend to be extremely advantageous. And they're willing to go to great lengths, like very manipulative ends, very extreme sort of behaviors to try to take advantage of situations. And that can be for a variety of different reasons, to try to feel more powerful over others again, or have more control. Whereas dismissive avoidance, they can just sometimes take when things are given to them without thinking, oh, I have to give so much back. And they really don't participate in like covert contracts and things of that nature. So, as a result, dismissive avoidance can seem like slightly more selfishly oriented at times or slightly advantageous, but it's going to be so small compared to a narcissist. Like the narcissist tends to be very extreme, and they may even, develop these elaborate strategies for like how to take advantage of a situation or how to manipulate somebody and really think those things through. Whereas a DA, if they're like given a bunch in the moment, they might just say, okay, cool, thanks. There's quite a big difference in the relationship to those things. And also, you'll often see that in a situation where a narcissist struggles with empathy, a narcissist may actually like actively try to hurt somebody. It's not just like, oh, they struggle with empathy, but they may like try to put somebody down. They may like have such a little empathy that they don't even really have any consideration or care, not just for people's feelings, but for how their actions affect people's feelings. And they may actively try to hurt people's feelings. And so a dismissive avoidance, they may not express empathy, in the best way when somebody's being emotional. They may kind of feel like frozen and not know the right thing to do or say, but they're not trying to hurt people. They're not trying to do things that actively hurt people and premeditate how they're going to go about doing this. So I just think that those things are really important to pay attention to. And even when it comes to things like stonewalling, yes, sometimes DAs stonewall and they can shut down and they can sort of like hold their feelings in, but that comes from their relationship to stonewalling being about self-protection. Whereas with a narcissist, they may stonewall to elicit a reaction. Like they're stonewalling to get under your skin, to get some kind of narcissistic supply. And it's like intentional and premeditated, and they're trying to breed a result and garner some kind of reaction from you. Whereas a DA is just focused on protecting themselves. So there's some really, I see how sometimes when people are on the receiving end of stonewalling, or somebody didn't express empathy in a healthy way, or somebody, kind of jumped at taking advantage of a situation, I get how when we're on the receiving end of that, it can feel really hurtful and we can feel like, oh my gosh, is this person a narcissist? But there's just such big differences between the two. However, and I'm going to say this one last thing here. What you may also see is that it is possible for a narcissist to be a dismissive avoidant attachment style. I would say there's a much smaller chance than them being FA or AP. Because if you look closely, narcissists have that constant need to be around people, to get that supply, that attention, that approval, that connection in some way to fill themselves up. Whereas DAs, they really don't tend to be like that. So we'll see a narcissist either be anxiously preoccupied or anxiously attached, or we'll see them be FA, especially if they have that really strong ability to deactivate, to push away, to shut down. So, there can be a narcissist who is a DA attachment style. There can be a narcissist, more likely so, who's FA and can really lean DA, but also can really lean anxious. And there can be narcissists who are mostly AP, and then have their narcissistic personality disorder traits that come online. But of course, it is definitely possible for those two things to coexist. But hopefully in this video, it made really, really clear sense to you, some of those major, major differences. I hope that gives you some clear perspectives. And I get a ton of questions around this all the time. So if you have more questions you'd like to see about this, please let me know in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to this video if you are enjoying this channel. And I will see you in the next video tomorrow.